Good morning, you all. I want to get right into this one because there is a tropical wave working through the central Caribbean right now that is producing some very real, very immediate weather impacts across a swath of communities that I want to make sure have the clearest possible picture of what is coming and when. And I want to be upfront with y'all about something before I even get into the data. The headline threat from this system is not tropical cyclone development. The National Hurricane Center is not highlighting this wave for formation. But I also want to be very clear that no tropical cyclone expected does not mean no threat. Because the flooding rain this wave is capable of producing across the Caribbean island communities and potentially the Gulf Coast region in the days ahead is a genuine life safety level hazard, whether the system ever gets a name or not. That is the story this morning. Let me tell it to you straight. What the NHC is seeing right now. Let me start with the actual data, because that is always where we start on this channel. According to the NHC's latest tropical weather discussion, a tropical wave with its axis along 75 degrees west longitude is currently in the central Caribbean, generating scattered showers and thunderstorms across the central Caribbean waters today. That puts the system squarely over open Caribbean water this morning, actively producing convection, deep, moisture-laden thunderstorms, as it pushes westward through the basin. This is not a weak, drying-out wave that is losing its convective character as it moves. This is an active system with ongoing thunderstorm development, and the environment around it is supporting that activity in a meaningful way. Upper-level divergent flow along with convergent lower-level trade wind flow is supporting scattered showers and thunderstorms off the coasts of Nicaragua and Honduras. That detail matters more than it might seem at first glance. When you have upper-level divergence, air spreading outward at high altitude, working together with low-level convergence, air flowing together near the surface, you have an atmospheric configuration that is actively pumping moisture upward and sustaining deep convection over a broad area. That is not a weak, disorganized signal. That is a coherent atmospheric response to the wave's passage, and it is what is driving the heavy rainfall threat across the Western Caribbean and Central American coast that I am most concerned about in the near term. The pressure gradient between the Atlantic Ridge north of the basin and the Colombian Low will continue to support fresh to strong trade winds and moderate to rough seas over the central Caribbean through Thursday night, with the aerial extent of these winds increasing tonight into Monday. Near gale force winds are expected each night offshore of Colombia and in the Gulf of Venezuela through Thursday. I want to make sure every mariner and coastal community in the Caribbean understands what that sea state means practically. Moderate to rough seas across the central Caribbean with locally near gale conditions offshore Colombia that is a dangerous marine environment layered on top of an already active convective setup. Anyone operating a vessel in the central or southwestern Caribbean over the next several days needs to be treating this situation with full seriousness. The flood threat. This is the part that matters most right now. Y'all, let me be very direct about where my concern is focused with this system, because I think it is the piece of this story that deserves the most attention and the most urgency from the communities in the path of this wave. Flooding, not tropical cyclone development. Flooding, here is why. A tropical wave moving through the Caribbean at this time of year is carrying one of the most abundant moisture reservoirs in the atmosphere anywhere on the planet. The tropical moisture content in an active Caribbean wave, what meteorologists measure using precipitable water values, the total depth of water vapor in a column of the atmosphere, is running exceptionally high with the system. When that moisture encounters the mountainous terrain of the Caribbean islands and the Central American coast, the atmosphere does something that is both predictable and extraordinarily dangerous. It goes up. The mountains force the moist air upward rapidly, and as it rises, it cools and condenses and releases rainfall at rates that flat terrain locations almost never see. This process, orographic enhancement, is responsible for some of the most catastrophic local flooding events in the Caribbean and Central American record, and it does not require a named tropical storm to happen. It requires a moisture-rich tropical wave and a mountain range. This system has both. The communities I am most concerned about for the flooding threat from this wave over the next 24 to 48 hours are along the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua and Honduras, where the NHC's own discussion specifically flags ongoing shower and thunderstorm activity supported by that favorable atmospheric configuration I described, and across the mountainous interior areas of Hispaniola, Jamaica, and any island in the wave's path where terrain and deep tropical moisture are going to intersect. Rainfall totals of 3 to 6 inches are a reasonable baseline expectation in these areas and in the areas of highest orographic enhancement. The windward slopes of mountain ranges directly facing the wave's approach. Localized totals of 8 to 12 inches in a 12 to 18-hour period are well within the realm of possibility. You all, I need to say something plainly about what 8 to 12 inches of rain in 12 to 18 hours means for communities in the Caribbean and Central American highlands, because I think the number alone does not fully convey the reality. The rivers and stream channels in the mountainous interior areas of these regions are steep, narrow, and fast-moving. When heavy rainfall hits those watersheds, the water does not soak in gradually. It runs. It combines with every other stream and creek feeding the same valley. It arrives at communities downstream faster than most people's intuition tells them it will. Flash floods in these terrain types do not give you hours of warning. They give you minutes. And a road that was dry an hour ago can be under 4 feet of fast-moving water before the rain has even stopped falling upstream. If you are in a community in the Caribbean or Central American highlands that is in the path of this wave over the next day or two, watch the water, watch the streams, watch the hillsides. If you see water starting to rise, if you see the color of a stream change from clear to brown or red, that is your signal to move to higher ground immediately, not in a few minutes, not after you finish what you are doing. Immediately. And please, please, do not drive through flooded roads. The road surface underneath moving water in a mountainous area can be completely undermined and washed away while the water surface looks passable. Every single severe weather season, in every part of the world, people die on flooded roads that they believe they could cross. Turn around. Every time. No exceptions. The broader basin picture. 3 more waves behind this one. I want to zoom out for a moment and give you the full Atlantic Basin picture, because this wave in the central Caribbean is not operating in isolation. It is part of a wave train, a sequence of tropical waves moving westward off the African continent that tells a meaningful story about what the tropics are doing right now and what the next several weeks of hurricane season could look like. As of the latest NHC tropical weather discussion, there are 3 additional tropical waves currently active across the Atlantic Basin. A tropical wave is along 25 degrees west longitude from the Cape Verde Islands southward to 3 degrees north, moving west at 15 knots. A second Atlantic tropical wave is near 35 degrees west longitude from 4 to 17 degrees north, moving west at 15 knots. A third Atlantic tropical wave is near 45 degrees west longitude from 2 to 17 degrees north, moving west at around 15 knots. 3 waves in the Atlantic, 1 in the central Caribbean, 4 systems simultaneously working their way westward across the basin. I want y'all to hold that picture in your mind because it tells you something important about where this hurricane season stands right now. The African continent is actively generating wave after wave of tropical energy and sending it westward. The suppression we have seen in this season so far, driven by El Niño-related wind shear and the Saharan dust plume, has been preventing those waves from developing, but the wave pipeline is full. And as we move deeper into July and toward August, as the main development region reaches its seasonal peak temperature and as the atmospheric pattern evolves, the environment that each successive wave encounters on its westward journey is going to be progressively more favorable for development than what these early season waves have been encountering. The wave currently near 25 degrees west, just off the Cape Verde Islands, is the one I am watching most carefully for the medium range, because it is the next system in the pipeline, and it is going to be arriving in the Caribbean in approximately 7 to 10 days. By that time, the Saharan dust plume that has been suppressing the basin through the early weeks of the season may be less extensive, and any relaxation in the wind shear pattern could give that system opportunities that the current wave did not have. I am going to be tracking all of these systems every single day and updating y'all the moment any of them show meaningful signs of organization. For the Gulf Coast communities of the United States, from Brownsville, Texas, all the way to the Florida Keys, I want to give you the honest, proportional message about what this wave means for you right now. The NHC's latest tropical weather outlook, issued this morning, states clearly that no tropical cyclone formation is anticipated over the next 7 days across the North Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, and Gulf of America. That is the official assessment, and I am reporting it accurately. This wave is not expected to become a named tropical storm in the time frame that matters for an imminent Gulf Coast threat. You do not need to be in evacuation decision mode today based on this system. But what I am asking every Gulf Coast resident to do, and I ask this every single time a wave is active in the Caribbean, regardless of development status, is use this moment of relative calm to make sure your preparedness foundation is solid. Because the wave pipeline is full, because August is approaching, because the Gulf of Mexico is sitting there with water temperatures that are above average, and an upper ocean heat content that is primed for rapid intensification, the next several weeks of this season deserve your sustained, steady attention. Not panic, attention. Know your hurricane evacuation zone. Have your supply kit built, have your family's plan in place, and set up y'all call, because tropical systems do not just produce hurricane-force winds and storm surge. They produce tornadoes in their outer rain bands, often in the middle of the night, often with very little lead time between warning issuance and impact. A direct phone call to your number when a tornado warning covers your specific address. Cutting through do not disturb, ringing until you answer, getting you up and moving to shelter is $14.95 for a full year. Set it up today while the tropics are calm enough to give you the time to do it thoughtfully. A strong tropical wave is moving through the central Caribbean right now, and it is producing real weather impacts across island and coastal communities in its path. The flooding threat is real, and it is the immediate priority. The broader basin is loaded with wave activity, and the peak of hurricane season is still ahead of us. And the honest message from this morning's data is the same message this channel has always been built on: awareness, preparation, and the truth about what the atmosphere is doing, told straight, without hype, without dismissal. I'm watching every wave in that pipeline. I will be right here with an update every time the picture changes meaningfully. Subscribe and ring that bell. Share this video with your family in the Caribbean and on the Gulf Coast. And as always, stay safe out there. I love y'all.